Hello everybody, my name is GettyKidora122 and welcome back to Pokemon Fire Red version. Last time we explored Cerulean City, seeing all of its citizens, finding out a lot of information about the city, about a certain person named Bill. We fought our rival, crossed the Golden Bridge, and even fought this Team Rocket Grunt here, even though it doesn't look like a Team Rocket Grunt in the field. And we got a lot of experience as a result of that. This time, we're on Route 24, just north of Cerulean City, and while we have not concluded our business in Cerulean City, I would like to explore Route 24 and its neighboring route, Route 25, before we get to any business. Now, as far as how I want to handle this, there are 3 new Pokemon that we can find in this general area, and I would like to discuss them. There are also a bunch of trainers over this way. So, what I would like to do, I would like to explore just a little bit, talk about a couple things here and there, and then once we get to the trainers, I'll start fighting them and I'll speed up the footage while I talk about the Pokemon that we can find here. Sound good? Good. Let's get to work. So first of all, up here, we found TM45, Attract. That's a move that just flat out inflicts the infatuation status I talked about before with Jigglypuff. Instead of Q-Charm as an ability, Attract just flat out inflicts the infatuation status to any Pokemon. Now, in order for Attract to work successfully, the Pokemon that you use it against has to be of an opposing gender. So if you have a male Pokemon use Attract, it can only attract female Pokemon, and vice versa. Females can only attract male Pokemon. This does not work on Pokemon that are considered genderless, and while there are a few of those, they do exist. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, we're gonna head off to the right here, and we are now technically on Route 25, and this is where we will be finding a bunch of trainers to fight. So, like I said, I'm just gonna speed through the footage, and I'll get to talk about the new Pokemon that we are able to get as we go through the route. So, take it away, Mr. Man. I just got down from Mount Moon, but I've still got gas in the tank. Okay, so first of all, starting off our analysis of Pokemon that we can find in this area, we're gonna start with Oddish. Now, Oddish is another Pokemon that is considered version exclusive. It can only be found in Fire Red. And the thing that I need to start out with Oddish is, this is a Pokemon I would highly recommend if you did not pick Bulbasaur, but still liked its typing. Oddish is a really solid substitute for that. It learns a lot of the same moves that Bulbasaur does and has a pretty comparable stat total once it evolves into Vileplume. A lot of its main attacking moves are going to involve absorbing HP from the opponent, which is pretty useful, especially when you have a bunch of long fights and you don't have the ability to access the healing area anytime soon. Also, like Bulbasaur, it learns a bunch of moves that inflict various stat conditions: paralysis, sleep, poison, you name it. Plus, Oddish is not particularly far off from evolving. It'll evolve into its evolved form Gloom at level 21, and then we'll need to use a Leaf Stone in order to evolve it into its final form, Vileplume. And as I had mentioned with Zubat, its Jotonian evolution, Blossom, is not available during the main story of this game. So if you want to get it, you're gonna have to really play the long game here. Plus, Vileplume's a really good Pokemon. Why would you not want to use it straight away? Now, its counterpart in Leaf Green version only is Bellsprout, which we saw last episode. Now, Bellsprout is pretty similar to Oddish in many regards. It's a grass poison type, it learns similar moves, it can inflict the powders, but the difference between Bellsprout versus Oddish and its evolved form, Vileplume, have pretty well-rounded stats all across the board. It's not spectacular, but it is pretty good at what it does, regardless of what you have it do. But Bellsprout trades in a little bit of defense for much improved offensive capabilities. If you want a good offensive grass poison type, this is your Pokemon to get. Like I said, either one of them can be a good substitute for Bulbasaur. So if you really like the grass poison type but just didn't want to use Bulbasaur for whatever reason, I would highly recommend catching whichever Pokemon is available to you. Obviously, whichever one you have available to you by default is determined by the version, but if you do have the ability to pick between versions or the ability to trade, do what you can to make it work for you. Either one will do just a fine job. And the third Pokemon that you can find, Abra. Now, despite what I said in the last episode about Abra being a total joke, do not let what I said before deter you. Abra has potential to be one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game. Abra is our first Psychic-type Pokemon. Psychic-type Pokemon, especially in the Kanto region, are considered generally to be the best type in the game. Comparable to Dragon-type, also having very few weaknesses. Now, the thing you need to know about Abra before we get into any details about how it is as a Pokemon. When you find Abra, do not try to inflict damage to it. The only viable option is for you to throw a Pokeball immediately. Do not reduce HP, don't try to inflict a status condition, just go straight for the Pokeball. Why do I say this? Well, it loops back around to what I had brought up before with Abra kind of being a joke when we fought it with Sheldon. Abra, as it stands, only knows one move, Teleport. Teleport is utterly useless in trainer battles, at least during the 3rd generation of Pokemon. But Teleport is particularly annoying when you're trying to deal with a wild Pokemon. Teleport allows the user to instantly escape from battle, no matter what. Normally when you're trying to run away from a wild Pokemon, it is determined by a speed check with respect to your Pokemon and the opposing Pokemon, but none of that applies in the case of Abra. If it uses Teleport, it instantly gets away. And because Teleport is the only move Abra can actually know, it is not able to really do anything other than Teleport, which means you only get one shot of catching it. It's not the most impossible thing to do. You might have to try with a couple times to actually get Abra successfully, but if you can, it becomes much better. Now, fortunately, Abra is not particularly far off from evolving into its evolved form, Kadabra, at level 16. And let me just say, as soon as it becomes Kadabra, it becomes an instant powerhouse with monstrous special attack that rival even some of the best Pokemon in this game. While it does have an evolved form in the form of Alakazam, there is another caveat that you need to be made aware of. While Kadabra's evolved form, Alakazam, does have unbelievable stats, even in comparison to Kadabra, has excellent special attack, pretty good special defense, and it's just all around one of the most overpowered Pokemon in the game. You cannot obtain Alakazam unless you trade Kadabra. So if you don't have the ability to conduct trades between different trainers, you're going to be stuck with Kadabra. That isn't to say you can't make Kadabra work, but just keep that in mind. That's why I wanted to kind of put a big emphasis on Kadabra stats, because if you can't trade, that's what you're going to kind of be working with. Regardless, it learns a lot of the generic Psychic-type moves that you would want it to learn. The only thing you really need to be careful of when raising Abra, Kadabra, or Alakazam, if you are able to get it that far, is while it is a monster in terms of its offensive capabilities with a special attack, its physical stats are where it really is flawed, especially with Abra and Kadabra. They are absolute pieces of glass. But if you can make it work, this can be one of the most overpowered Pokemon in the game, smashing through poison types and fighting types effortlessly. Plus, even though dark types are a thing, there really aren't any dark type Pokemon from the original 151, so you don't really have to worry about it. Plus, Bite is still considered a special attack in this game, despite it very much being physical contact. So you won't really need to worry about dark type moves overly that much, or at least not right now anyway. Oh, and if there is one thing that I could recommend about Abra above anything else, and I know you're not gonna like to hear this considering how difficult it is to get Abra in the first place, but hear me out. Like Spearow, I do recommend that you catch more than one Abra. And it is for the exact same reason that will come up with Spearow when that comes up. But you are definitely going to want to try to catch 2 Abra if you can help it, especially if you plan on raising one of them. Okay, that took a few minutes, but we finally made it to the end of Route 25. Before we go in this house, we're actually going to go ahead and trek back to Route 24, because now that I've gone over the Pokemon that we can catch, it's time to actually make an effort to catch these darn things. And trust me, we're gonna be here for a hot minute, so bear with me as I do a little more cutting around. Alright, there is Oddish. As I mentioned, this is the only one of the 2 grass Pokemon that we can get in this particular version, but that is totally fine because Oddish is a pretty good Pokemon. I'm not going to be using Oddish on my team, but I might add him as a temporary team member just considering what's coming up. Now, the move that Oddish is currently using right now is Sweet Scent. It was used on me a little while ago, but it's basically the opposite of Double Team, whereas Double Team raises your evasiveness, Sweet Scent lowers the opponent's evasiveness. So it's pretty situational, but Sweet Scent actually has a secondary purpose that I will show you in just a second. Well, in a few minutes, rather. Alright, and with that, Oddish has been caught. Oddish, the weed Pokemon. Its scientific name is Odwium wandyrus. At night, it is said to walk nearly 1,000 feet on its 2 roots. Is that what they call it? Once again, if you want to give a nickname to Oddish, just let me know in the comments and I might put it on. I will give you credit if you give me a comment. Now, in my personal experience when trying to find Abra, this is the patch of grass that I have the best luck with by comparison. But between Route 24 and Route 25, objectively speaking, Abra has the same odds of popping up regardless of where you go and regardless of what version you're playing. It should pop up at least 15% of the time. That said, this is still not going to be easy. Alright, well, there's one Abra. Now, like I said, do not weaken it. Just try to catch it. That's your only option. Fudge. Yep, there you go. And just like that, Abra is gone. Hey! Alright, attempt number 2. Alright! There's one, Abra! Abra's in is add to the Pokédex. Abra, the Psy Pokemon. It sleeps for 18 hours a day. It uses a variety of extrasensory powers even while asleep. As for the first Abra, you're free to give whatever nickname you want to it if you feel so inclined. I'm not going to be using Abra on my team, but I still need to get 2 of them. Okay, second Abra. Fortunately, that did not take particularly long to find. Well, technically, this is the 3rd Abra, but shut up, let me have this, please. Oh, come on! As for at it again! Okay, 2 Abras in a row. Thank you, game, for giving me a freebie here. Okay, that is 2 Abras successfully caught. Fantastic. Alright, so now that we have completed our work here, we've gotten the Abras, let's go into this little house over here. Is that a fairy? Hiya, I'm a Pokemon. No, I'm not. Call me Bill. I'm a true blue Pokémaniac. Hey, what's with that skeptical look? I'm not joshing you, pal. I screwed up an experiment and got combined with a Pokemon. So, how about it? Help me out here. No! No? Now don't be so cold. Come on, you gotta help a guy in deep, deep trouble. What do you say, Chief? Please? Okay? Alright. Wait till I get inside the teleporter. When I do, go to my PC and run the cell separation system. Now, you can walk out of here and start the entire conversation over, but I don't feel like being a jerk, so I'll just go ahead and initiate the teleportation process. Griffin initiated the teleporter cell separator. All right, great. Yeah, thanks, bud. I owe you one. So, did you come to see my Pokemon collection? You didn't? That's a bummer. I've got to thank you. Oh, here, maybe this'll do. Griffin received the SS ticket from Bill. Put it in the Keaton's pocket. That cruise ship, SSN, is in Vermilion City. I hear there are lots of trainers on board, too. They invited me to their party, but I can't stand fancy dues. Why don't you go instead of me? Go on and have a good time. Well, thanks, Bill. Super nice of you. Now, if we go and take a look at his PC right here. Teleport display on the PC monitor. Huh. Usually there's something here. Hold on. Feel like checking some of my rare Pokemon on my PC? Go on, check out my PC. Alright, let's try it now. Bill's favorite Pokemon list. There we go. Which Pokemon do you want to see? So there are 4 different Pokemon that we can take a look at here. So first of all, Eevee. That's his favorite Pokemon. Cute little guy. Next, we'll take a look at Flareon. Pretty hot little fox there. I only say that because it's a fire type. There's Jolteon. Pretty sparky little guy. And there's Vaporeon, which honestly, I'll just say it, this is one of the best Vaporeon sprites that they've ever made. So simple, but very effective. Now, if we were to take a look at our Pokedex, we can see that Eevee and its evolutions have been registered as seen in our Pokedex. They have not been considered caught, but they have been considered seen. I'm not going to be going over Eevee and its evolutions right now, as we don't have the ability to get any of these guys, but it is something that you definitely should at least consider for later. If any of these Pokemon look appealing to you, just keep it in mind for later on. We'll eventually find ourselves an Eevee, but that's a little ways away from now. Thank you, Bill, for your contribution to the Pokedex. Check the mailbox here. Sea Cottage. Bill lives here. I hardly see how this is a sea, but I guess there's like... I guess this is considered ocean front property, so by definition, I guess it is considered Sea Cottage. What do you have to say, guy? Hello, are you here alone? If you're out at Cerulean's Cape, well, it should be as a couple. This cape is a famous date spot. Misty, the gym leader, has high hopes about this place. Yeah, for some reason they decided to make this like a proper dating spot. Seems a little weird to be egging on a 10-year-old to go on dates, but hey, I won't complain. Now, if you do need a nice little shortcut to get back to Cerulean City, if you just go down this way, walk all the way down here, and bam, we're back in Cerulean City, baby. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this episode relatively brief, just because we do have a little bit coming up. And besides, the matter of catching the wild Abras is a lot more tedious and time-consuming than you might think. So we're gonna end it here. Next time on Pokemon Fire Red version, it's time. We're gonna head off to the Cerulean Gym and we're gonna face off against Misty. See you guys then.